Don't you just love Jerry? I mean, you can always get somebody up here to do it right. But how much fun would that be? Open your Bibles along with me to John chapter 1. You know, it's amazing, at least for me, how... it's just amazing. It's amazing. I can't even explain. It's like there's lessons everywhere and things working together for good, but also for good lessons. And I don't know, maybe it's just me, but I just find in my life all these people I meet and things that are happening, and I feel like, certainly I'm not the teacher, God help me to be a learner, but to watch what's going on in life and to see what's taking place. And I've been so blessed just to observe the Lord in my life, and it's always an adventure. It's always fun. Like, what's going to happen next? I didn't know who was going to do the announcements and who's going to pop up next and what's going to happen, and the 5 soups deal. That is great, because the message this morning is about the first 5. Everything I'm talking about is about 5s, and I didn't even know it was about soup, but it's just all working together. I pointed out to you last time I was here the similarity between the ending of Luke's gospel and the beginning of John's gospel. In these two, we have 2 disciples, 2 lost disciples, 2 unnamed lost disciples, and in each case, Jesus is with them. He abides with them. Now, they don't know it's Jesus. They don't recognize. That always takes time. But there he is. And in the ending of Luke's gospel, it's the risen Jesus, the most powerful picture of Jesus of all. And he's there with them. And something powerful is happening to them. And they don't even know it till later. It's like, whoa, that was powerful. There he was. He's with us. He's abiding with us. And eventually, as we saw in Luke's gospel, eventually they recognize, oh, that was Jesus. And here in John's Gospel, again, you have 2 disciples, unnamed, and they want to abide with Jesus, but the fact is that they just recently heard of who he was, and, it takes time. You know, for those who were with the risen Jesus, it took time to recognize that was Jesus. For these 2 here in John's Gospel that are abiding with him, it takes more than a lifetime to recognize who he is and how blessed we've been just to have been with him. And so, because it takes time, I take time. I'm in no hurry. Looking here, especially, you'll see at this section of John's Gospel, there's so much taking place. But let's go ahead. I'll read a big section. We'll overlap it a few times, but it's the second half of John chapter 1, and it says again the next day. This is verse 35. This is the 3rd day in terms of John the Baptist's ministry. So here's John the Baptist. Again, the next day, John the Baptist was standing with 2 of his disciples, and he looked upon Jesus as he walked, and he said, "Behold, the Lamb of God." And those 2 disciples heard John the Baptist speak, and they followed Jesus. Jesus turned and beheld these 2 following, and he said to them, "What do you want? What are you looking for?" And they said to him, "Teacher," Rabbi, which means teacher, "where do you abide? Where are you abiding? Where are you staying?" He said, "Come, and you will see." They came therefore, and they saw his abode. They saw where he was staying, and they abided with him throughout that day. It was about 10 in the morning. Now, one of the 2 who had heard John speak and followed him was Andrew, Simon Peter's brother. And he found first his own brother Simon and said to him, "We have found the Messiah," which translated means Christ. And then he brought him to Jesus, and Jesus looked at him and said, "You are Simon, the son of John. You shall be called Cephas," which is translated Peter. And the next day, Jesus purposed to go forth into Galilee. And he found Philip, and Jesus said to him, "Follow me." Now, Philip was from Bethsaida of the city of Andrew and Peter. And Philip found Nathanael and said to him, "We have found him of whom Moses in the law and also the prophets wrote, Jesus of Nazareth, the son of Joseph." And Nathanael said to him, "Can any good thing come out of Nazareth?" Philip said, "Come and see." Jesus saw Nathanael coming to him, and Jesus said, "Behold, an Israelite indeed, in whom there's no guile, no phoniness." And Nathanael said to him, "How do you know me?" Jesus answered, saying, before Philip called you, when you were under the fig tree, I saw you. Nathanael said, Rabbi, you are the Son of God. You are the King of Israel. And Jesus answered and said to him, because I said to you that I saw you under the fig tree, you believe? You're going to see greater things than these. Truly, truly, I say to you, you shall see the heavens opened and the angels of God ascending and descending upon the Son of Man. Now, that's a lot. But in that section, you have the first 5 followers of Jesus, the first 5 apostles. And that's going to be our focus here today, these first 5. Now, in this section, I also can't help but saying that John gives us 7 sayings of Jesus. The first 7 sayings. We spent a lot of time in the Synoptic Gospels, the first 3 Gospels, looking at the last 7 sayings of Jesus, the 7 sayings of Jesus from the cross. You folks remember? I spent weeks probably going over that, and people throughout history have focused on that, the final 7 sayings of Jesus. And, as I'm standing up here right now, I just want to say, boy, am I bright. I am brighter than I think I have ever been. I don't know, Jerry must have changed the light bulbs or did something. Because not only am I bright, but you folks are fading. You're in the dark. I look at you and I act like I see you, but I don't know. So it's a good time to fall asleep because I'll never know. But your 7 last sayings. Well, John gives us the first 7 sayings of Jesus. And I know you'd like to focus on that, but we're not going to. Maybe next week. But everything he has to say, we started to look at that. But today's focus, not what he's saying so much as who is he saying it to. These first 5 disciples. Now, we might call them the first 5 followers, and if you just look at that word through this chapter, they followed. It'd be fair to call them the first 5 followers, but they're only followers because they're first found. They're the first 5 who are found. When Jesus summarized his ministry, what he came to do as the Messiah, he said, the Son of Man has come to seek and to save the lost. He's out finding people. He's coming and he's seeking and saving the lost. That's how he summarized his ministry. Favorite way to refer to himself, the Son of Man came to seek and save the lost. Now, do you remember when he said that? Where we know he said that? I can't see you, so I'm sure you're all saying yeah. I didn't until I looked it up. I thought he said that a lot of times. I thought, oh, that's everywhere. And then I looked specifically this morning. And I was surprised and blessed, even more than the 5 soups that fits in with the whole thing. I found it all fits in because he said it one time. It's kind of quoted into Matthew's gospel, but he said it one time, and he said it at the end of his ministry as he was headed toward Jerusalem for that final week. He was passing through a place called Jericho. We saw it in Luke chapter 19. And there was a little guy, or at least we think of him as a little guy, Zacchaeus. And as Jesus was going through Jericho, there was this guy who wanted to see who Jesus was. He wasn't a follower, far from it. And he just wanted to see who Jesus was. He knew Jesus was famous, but because he was a little guy, he climbed up in a tree. And he wasn't out there because he wanted to be famous. He just wanted to see Jesus. He wasn't looking to have a selfie taken with Jesus. He just wanted to see Jesus for himself. I want to see him with my own eyes. And so all he wants is just to get up in that tree and see him. He climbs up in the fig tree or the sycamore tree, same tree. Fig tree, sycamore tree. He gets to the top of the tree, and there he is. And Jesus, of course, knows. Jesus stops under the tree. Jesus looks up at him. He says, Zacchaeus, hurry up, come down, because I have to abide. I have to stay in your house today. And so Zacchaeus comes down to his big surprise, and he spends, I wouldn't be surprised if it was 10 in the morning, but he spends the whole day. He spends a lot of time in the house, abiding, just like same word as these first 2 disciples, just abiding with Jesus There in that place, comes out, obviously his life is changed, and people start to grumble and murmur because he was a tax gatherer. And they're all bothered by all of this, and Jesus said, the Son of Man came, to seek and to save the lost. Now, do you think, there's no clue that Zacchaeus knew he was lost. He was. We're all a little lost, just like we're all sinners. We all fall short. Nobody's perfect. We really don't know who we are or where we are or what we're about. We're lost more than we know we're lost. But Jesus knew that. Zacchaeus was lost. Zacchaeus just thought, oh, yeah, I'm curious. But the fact is, Jesus was seeking that man. And I want to abide in your house. I want to stay with you. And so he calls him down from the top of that fig tree, from the top of that sycamore tree. So that's the first time that he said that. He summarized the end of his ministry. But here at the beginning of his ministry, we see these first 5 followers. Later on in John chapter 6, we'll see 5,000. Jesus miraculously fills the belly of 5,000 people. And then in the first 4 chapters of Acts, we see that he miraculously fills the souls, the hearts of 5,000 people. And in each of these cases, we could call them 5,000 followers. But you know, whenever you look at a big group, 5,000, hard to miss. You miss it all. Because all you can look at when you see a crowd of 5,000 is you see a crowd. And when you see a crowd, you don't see people. You just see a bunch of people. You see a crowd. So kind of when you slow it down and narrow it in, not the first 5,000, but the first 5. What's true for these first 5 is true for the 5,000 as well. But at least we can get a handle on that. I can count those 5 on one hand. And I can say, there, I can get a handle on that. I can look at that. I can see that. And so that's our focus. That's my desire here today. Yes, the first 5 followers of Jesus, they're that, but they're the first 5 that he found. And the question is, did they know that they were found? Did they even know that they were lost? Did they know that it was Jesus who was seeking after them? Every one of them's different because we're all different. And the ways in which Jesus works with them is different. And that's probably one of the main lessons that I hope you get out of this reminder, is we're all different. Jesus is the same, but he does different things in different cases. And as we look at these first 5 that he found, we find that he's working each with a particular purpose. And he knows how to get a hold of each. He knows how to handle, he knows how to help each. And each of them, again, we couldn't begin to look at 5,000. I don't think we could begin to deal with this room here. But just taking the time to look at these 5, I think you'll see, as little as we know about these 5, you'll see that Jesus knows everything about all 5 of them. He knows everything about each of them. Each of them is different. I like to deal with individuals, and there's not too many I can allow in my life, not because I'm so important, it's just because my life is so limited. There's only a few folks that I can have really close in my life, a neighbor, a friend. If you've got 5 friends, you're a blessed person. If you've got 5 family members, you've got a lot to do. There's a lot of busyness. There's a lot to be involved in. But dealing with individuals, not following crowds, not trying to attract crowds. What a mess we've made out of it all. All of this whole big Jesus business, the whole marketing of Christianity as though it were something that could be mass-produced. God deals with individuals. God cares about you. I'm so blessed that anybody wants to hear what I have to say today, because I'm so blessed to hear what I have to say. God cares about me. God's doing something in my life, not because I'm so important, but because I'm so important to him. That's the same for each of you. And so focusing on these first 5, it's really important. And though we can't know the full story for any of the 5, just know this. Each of them has their own story. And that's the way it is. And there's only one who knows each one's story. And that's the Son of Man. He knows your story. He knows my story. I don't know my own story sometimes. Sometimes, after 41, 42, I don't even know how long I've been married. I've forgotten. Sometimes I tease my wife, oh, you're a mystery to me. Oh, You know what? I'm a mystery to myself in many ways. There's so many things I still yet don't know about myself. Sometimes I disappoint myself. I surprise myself. Whatever. The fact is, my hope is in the one who knows me fully, and I desire to more fully know him who already knows me fully and loves me completely. And that's the exciting thing. It's the Savior. It's not the great followers of Jesus. It's Jesus, the great finder, the one who finds folks, who knows what they need, and who will help them. And so the first two of these folks that he found, we already looked at them, but looking is hardly knowing. And of those first two that we've already talked about, only one of them is named. Andrew is the one who's named, and yet we hardly even know him. It's like, wow, we know his name, Andrew. No sooner do we know his name, Andrew, and already he's pushed to the background, because from that point on, he's Andrew, the brother of Peter. And then really for the rest of his life, for like 2,000 years now, he's known as the brother of Peter. So I don't know anything else about him, but he's Andrew, the brother of Peter, and he, in a sense, kind of falls into the shadow of who Peter is. I wonder if that bothered Andrew, ever. I wonder if he ever felt like, am I ever going to be known for myself? Everyone knows me. So, oh yeah, you're Peter's brother, aren't you? You know my name, but you know nothing about me. Have whole programs named after me. Operation Andrew. I'm famous. Billy Graham crusades use me. But the fact is, you don't know me. All my life, I've lived in the shadow of my brother. Is anyone ever going to know me for myself? Yeah, there's one who knows you for yourself. And who didn't find you because he was trying to find Peter, and I don't know how to get a hold of Peter unless I get his brother first. It doesn't work that way. God doesn't work that way. Did Andrew ever care about that? Did that bother him? Did Andy? I feel like I know him already. Did Andy even care about that during the course of his earthly life? Maybe. I don't know. Does he care about it now? No. That's the important thing. He couldn't care less about it now. Because the fact is, we all fit in somewhere in the great scheme of things, but God isn't just a great schemer. He does care about you individually. And if you don't know it now, you'll know it later, but I hope you start to learn it now. He cares about you. You're not a pawn. You're not a tool to get a hold of somebody else. God used me. Yet God did a whole lot more than that. People will use you. God loves you. And he knows your story, and he wants to work in your life. When I was here living in Fresno, raising a family, being involved in the church, having a business, there were a lot of ways in which I was known. My wife, my kids were my kids. My wife was, choosing to spend a lot of time with the kids. And a big concern, easy, especially as the church starts to grow and I go on the radio and more the idea of, oh, he's somebody, and more the concern that my kids would be pastors' kids or the kids of somebody else. And it was always really important to us because it's important to God. No, you are who you are. You got to learn and grow to be who you are. You're not just my kid. And certainly my wife, all the stuff that comes, the pastor's wife. You don't know her. And sometimes those sort of things can be hard. But the fact is that God's got an individual plan for each person. For me now, as my kids are grown up, as my wife is doing all kinds of things that developing her own life and working in ways, I love to be introduced to, oh, this is Lorna's husband. And they know nothing more about me. All the pressure's off. I think, wow, you know her, you love her, so now you must love me too, because I'm Lorna's husband. I love to be, that's David's dad. That's Jonathan's dad. I don't feel like, oh, I'm in the shadow of. It feels good, especially if you've lived too many years in Fresno. You really like to be in the shade, in the shadows. And you know what? It's But here in this life, and it's kind of something we'll see a little bit more, the sycamore tree, trying to climb to the top of the tree or sitting at the base of the tree. Or in this life, we can get really weird because we think it's all about position and place, and it's not with God. Not in truth, not eternally. It's God cares about each individual. So here, Andrew's the only one that we know his name, and yet we know hardly else about him. But it doesn't matter. The Lord knows it all. And so the first of the two followers is Andy, and the second one is Mr. Nobody. We don't know his name. Mr. Nobody. Just because we don't know his name, he chose, I believe he chose to be anonymous. I don't know because he didn't want to be known. But I believe this is John, the gospel writer. We'll see it later again and again. He seems to choose. He keeps choosing to be anonymous. And when he names himself at all, I mean, God knows who I am. And yes, he has a name and all of that sort of stuff. But for his own choice, John referred to himself as the one who Jesus loved. And man, when you really understand that, you'll understand there's no higher identity. I'm the one who Jesus loved. Not comparative, loved better, loved best, just I'm one that he loves. And John loved to identify and to think of himself in that way. And so these are the two that Jesus first found. And again, the question, did these two know that they were found by Jesus? Let me read it one more time with you. Verse 35, here we are with John the Baptist. Verse 35 says, the next day, the third day, John the Baptist was standing with these two disciples, and John the Baptist looked on Jesus as he walked, and he said, behold the Lamb of God. And then these two disciples heard John speak, and they followed Jesus. And Jesus turned and saw them following. He said, what do you want? They said, we want to know where you're staying. Verse 39 says, he said, come and see. So they did. They stayed with him throughout that day. It says, verse 40, one of the two who heard John speak and follow him was Andy. And no sooner do we know his name, Andrew, Simon Peter's brother, and he's gone from here on out. He's in the shadows. But okay, Andrew. And then Andrew first found his own brother Simon. And Andy said, we have found the Messiah, which means Christ. So the first words that we know Andy said, we don't know who said, where do you stay? It could have been John that said that. The first words we know for sure that Andy said was, we have found Jesus. So remember what my question was? I always forget. What am I talking about? The question was, did they know that Jesus found them? I don't know. All I know is the first words out of Andy's mouth was, we found him. And he's telling his brother that. I've got brothers. There's always, I want to help you, but I also want you to know that I'm the first one who knew. And we have found him, and let me teach you something, bro. He's the one who is the one. And so there's maybe that sort of thing is going on. But that's, mouth speaks out of that which fills the heart. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm not saying it's not true. But did they know that Jesus found them? I don't know. But he did. I suspect that if you or I, biblical scholars like we are, if we could get in a time machine and go back and stand there with Andrew and hear Andrew say, we have found him, we might be tempted to say, oh no, Andrew, you didn't find him. He found you. And then we do our little Bible deal on him. And I'll bet you if any of us tried that, Andy'd be right back in our face saying, no, he didn't find me. I found him. For who knows how many months, I've spent all this time hanging out with John the Baptist. This has been important to me. I've been seeking the Messiah all my life. John the Baptist said, there he is. I followed. I went. I think he would have argued about it. But later, at the end of the gospel, when Jesus says to all of them, you didn't choose me. I chose you. Nobody argued. Because you don't argue with Jesus. You may not agree with him. In your heart of hearts, you may think, I deserve some credit because I did this but you don't argue with Jesus, especially, No one argued with Jesus, but the fact is that he did find them. He did choose them. And just because they didn't argue with Jesus like they would have argued with a brother, doesn't mean they got it. Like, yeah, you're right. I didn't. You chose me. Just because we don't fight about it doesn't mean we got it. In fact, I still don't think we get it. The emphasis is never on the fact that we get it. The fact is that he got us. That's the hope. I'm still a mystery to me. So many things I don't know. But he knows me, and he loves me, and he has a plan for my life, and that plan is unfolding in my life. And as I learn to love the life that he has for me, even when I find it goes through courses that I wouldn't have chosen, the fact is that he has a plan and a purpose for my life, and that's the wonderful thing. I don't get it, but he got me. And so on we go, and we learn. He was saving these guys. They didn't know that. They were lost. They didn't know that, probably. But he knows. He knows what we need. You know, this morning I tried to save a dog. It's funny how, I may think ahead, prepare, pray, what am I going to say? But you never know what you're going to say. I never know what I'm going to say till I get there. And a lot of what I have to say may involve something that happens right here while I'm standing or a couple hours before. But I found today that, there was a dog as I was driving over here early, 6:30 in the morning, just barely, sun coming up, just getting light. And there was a German Shepherd laying by the side of the road over here at the corner, and it looked like he was injured. And you guys know I'm a dog lover, and I see it, and I'm thinking, especially big dogs, I tend to relate to big dogs, maybe because we're all the same, part of the pack. But I just see him there, and I drive around the corner, and I think, oh, that's so sad. And then another little voice inside of me, I don't think it was the devil, another little voice said, now that's so sad, that you're just saying that's so sad and driving on. That's so sad. Well, but I'm in a hurry. I've got to go prepare a Bible study. And God knows you don't have time to help anybody when you're going to prepare a Bible study. I know better than all of that sort of stuff, so I didn't even argue with whatever that voice was inside. I just knew that's so sad to just say that's so sad. See if you can do something. And so I tried to see. I flipped a U-turn. I did all this stuff, got over there. Because the dog looked injured and was a big dog, I'm not going to try to approach it, but I called SPCA, and that's a hard thing to get any immediate action, but what else could I do? So I did that. I sat there for a while. I waited. I did have a Starbucks coffee that I bought first. So it wasn't like I was making a huge sacrifice. Just in case, just so you know. And so I was sipping on the coffee and thinking, what can I do here? Looks like the dog has been hit by a car when I talked to the person on the answering thing. And so I sit there for a while. I don't want to make the story too long, but at any rate, the dog eventually got up. It had a limp. Yeah, I do think it got hit by a car, but it started going out in the street, gets out in the intersection. And this is all like deja vu. Have I done this before? Yes, this has happened to me a number of times before. And it can be so frustrating because you want to help this dog in need, but the dog's a dog. The dog doesn't know I'm in need. The dog doesn't say, oh, you've come to rescue me. The dog just sees me as a threat. I'm doing all of my come on, everything I can think of, and the dog's just like, you're weird, and stay away, and going out in the traffic, and other people are honking at the dog, and I'm thinking that's going to help. But, I've been in this situation, and sometimes it doesn't turn out good at all. This one turned out, I don't know how it turned out. It's turning into a message at any rate, but I really, really would have liked to have saved this dog. The dog just, I couldn't convey to it, I want to save you, I want to rescue you. I kept corralling it, trying with my car, corralling it so it would stay out of the street and back and forth and waiting if maybe eventually the SPCA could come and work with it. It just never happened. I spent maybe 15 minutes or so trying to do what I could do, and I couldn't do more. Okay, bottom line, because I don't know. I hope someone was able to help the dog. But this is not the first time at all this has happened in my life. And bottom line, when it happens, it doesn't make me love dogs less. It doesn't make me say, stupid dogs, why do I ever try and save them? You know, and again, I've had some stories that turned out worse than that. It's like, you know, but the bottom line isn't like, dogs are dumb. You know, he deserves whatever happens. No, the bottom line is it's hard. It's hard to love, it's hard to care, it's hard to save something that needs saving and doesn't really know it needs saving. It's hard to communicate, it's hard to get through. I wish I could do better. That's the bottom line. And I think that the only reason I'm telling you that is I think that's a little taste of how much more our Heavenly Father, He comes to seek and to save the lost. And no matter how dense we may be, no matter how unaware we are that we're even lost, no matter how hard it may be to communicate. And the communication problems, I believe, are always on our side. But God's love doesn't get diminished by that. And so these first two came because they heard a preacher. They heard the best preacher, best up till then, John the Baptist. They heard the preacher, and they followed Jesus, we're told, but they were found. They didn't find him, they were found. And the third one of these five, how am I going to get five in? You see? The third one is found by his brother. You know who that is. Verse 41 says that Andrew found first his own brother Simon and said to him, "We have found the Messiah," which means the Christ. And then he brought him to Jesus. And Jesus looked at him and said, "You are Simon the son of John. You will be called Cephas," which means Peter. And so the third one is found by his brother Andrew. But again, Jesus found him. Jesus is the one who found Peter. And then verse 43, the fourth one. Verse 43 says, "The next day, Jesus purposed to go forth into Galilee, and Jesus found Philip, and Jesus said to him, 'Follow me.'" Now that's an easy one. Says Jesus purposed to go there. Jesus found him. Jesus said, "Follow me." Of the five, that's the easy one. I like it when I get an easy one once in a while. Whenever I get a test and it's like, oh man, I'm looking for an easy one. So multiple choice, multiple guess. Those are always, at least, if it's a fill in the blank, at least it's the first one that says, what's your name? And I think, okay, I write that one in. I feel good. I'm on a roll. I know that one. Here in the case of, did Jesus find them? Well, yeah, that's an easy one. But why Philip? Why did Jesus choose to go there? Why, of all the people on the planet, or all of the people in Palestine at that time, or Israel, or why Philip? I don't know. See, even the easy ones are hard ones if you try to get your head around it. If you try and stand on your head, you're going to get overwhelmed pretty fast. Lean on your heart, or at least lean with your heart on the Lord. Don't lean on your own understanding. So yeah, Jesus is the one who initiated it clearly with Philip, but we'll just leave it there. We'll just say Jesus found him. That's really clear. And then it says in verse 44, Philip was from Bethsaida, of the city of Andrew and Peter. You know, there's all these connections here. And Philip found Nathanael, and then said to Nathanael, "We have found him, of whom Moses in the law and also the prophets wrote, that is Jesus of Nazareth, the son of Joseph." And so Nathanael said to him, "Can any good thing come out of Nazareth?" And Philip said, "Well, come and see." That's a great answer, because he doesn't give him an answer. Can any good thing come out of Nazareth? Well, let me tell you. Let's go back to the Old Testament. Let's find. Sometimes the best answer is no answer. If you really want the person to know, you're going to have to come. You come and see. You find out for yourself directly with Jesus. Can any good thing come out of Nazareth? Come and see. And so it says, verse 47, that Jesus saw Nathanael coming to him. And Jesus said, "Behold, an Israelite indeed, in whom there's no phoniness, no guile." And Nathanael said to me, "How did you know me?" Jesus said, "Before Philip called you, when you were under that sycamore tree, under that fig tree, I saw you. Wow. You see, Zacchaeus, he came to seek and to save the lost. Zacchaeus was at the top of the tree. And he just wanted to see, who's this Jesus anyway? But Jesus was looking for Zacchaeus. And Nathanael was at the bottom of the tree. I don't know what it meant to him, but it meant a lot to him. To know that Jesus knew that moment, that was one of those moments in his life. Maybe sitting there at the bottom of the tree, he's thinking about some heavy things in his life. Maybe he's pondering and reflecting and praying, and I suspect something like that. But one's the top of the tree, one's the bottom, same tree, not the same tree, but the same type of tree. It's poetry, it's a picture. Same Savior, two different people. One's at the top, one's at the bottom. But Jesus always knows where you're coming from. He knows where you're going. He knows where you've been. And that's not just true for these two. This is true for each of you. And this is the hope that each of you can hold on to, and the one that you can give to other folks that wonder, what is the hope? There's one who knows. There's one who cares. There's one who's looking to shine his love, shine his light upon you. The beautiful prologue to John's gospel about the light coming into the world, the light that enlightens every man. And whenever we are enlightened, whenever we find the light, no, the light found you. Whenever we find the light, we are found. And now what's the next thing? What are you going to do with the light? Will you abide in the light? Will you learn to love the light? Even if the light doesn't necessarily flatter, doesn't necessarily show you what you want to see. What do you do with the light that comes to you? And if you'll accept and receive that light and know that that light is never condemning, it's always to enlighten. God is light. God is love. When you love the light, when you shine the light, then you shine. Wherever love is shown, we shine. When we live the light, when we love the light, that's the life that we were forever born to. And so here, these 5, just in quick summary, and quick for me is, I know, a little bit slow, but there's a whole lot more here. I think I moved too fast. I'm just going to tell you. I go back and listen to some of my messages, and I don't think they got it because I was talking too fast. Really. There's so much here. But 5 folks found, each in their own way. I hope you got that. For myself, we're approaching Thanksgiving. I want to say how blessed I have been this year. My life has been incredibly blessed, even though I lost a dog that I wished I could have saved. Not the one this morning, but the one who died to cancer earlier in the year. Gosh. Why do I do this to myself? You don't get over it. I don't get over it. You get through it, and I believe, maybe I'm crazy, but I'm going to see him again. Could I see him still in my heart and mind? Yeah. So in spite of that, it's been a good year. And then to find out 4 or 5 months later that I was the one with cancer, that was a lot of fun. But you know what? It's still been a good year. Not because I believe God gave my dog or me the cancer or any other of the things that I wouldn't have chosen, things that happened in my life. I'm not saying God chose that for me. I'm saying God got me through those things. And I have seen so many good things come out as I look around and don't focus on what's bad. How many things God has been teaching me that last forever, because all the good things will come back, but better things being built. When I came back a few weeks ago from having been off for those weeks, and the Central Valley Church had the courtyard filled with tables, and I talked about it then. I didn't plan that. They didn't plan it. But man, did that bless me to see that courtyard filled with folks. And the second week that I came back, the New Beginnings Church was having their annual, I was going to call it a fiesta, but I probably shouldn't call it a fiesta. It's a celebration. Filipino food is kind of the ethnicity of that group of believers, but the warmth, the welcoming, they asked me to come on into the gym and all of this food, and everyone was having a great time except for the pig who's there. Head and all. But again, just the wonderful blessing of people loving each other. Not this I'm of Paul, I'm of Apollos nonsense. And I found that in the 5 weeks that I needed to take off with my needs, I found 5 friends. Very old friends, people who, they've been friends forever, but when you have friends, you keep finding them. You keep finding new things and more things and blessed things about it. And that's why I had each of these guys share something of their story. When Jerry was up here last week, Jerry said, Pastor Bruce asked me to tell some of my testimony. And, I at first I think, Jerry, don't tell them I told you. I do whatever Pastor Bruce says, because, man, I don't want relationships like that. I want you to be yourself, but I wanted people to know Jerry a little bit better. I wanted them to hear the story. And for those 5, just like these 5 here, each story is different. And you can look at each of their story, how it is that they found Christ, but Christ found them. And you can look at those 5, and each would be different, and that's just the way it works. There's different ways that we say it, right? You say, give me 5, or high 5, or give me some skin. Or, can I give you a hand? All different ways of saying the same thing. That's what's happening here. That's what's happening here. That's amazing. Some folks get excited about crowds. I don't. There's a crowd mentality. I get blessed by people, individuals. And yes, one day heaven's going to be filled with numbers you can't even count. But I'll tell you, when we get there, we'll finally see that what really counts is that every person has their own story. And each of you are somewhere in the middle of your own, and sometimes it feels like my story is just Mr. Nobody, or my story is just born loser, or whatever you may feel. I can't explain to you your story. I just know that Jesus knows. And as always, I invite you to get to know him better, who knows you fully and loves you. And how blessed we are to be here. How blessed I am to be a part of this group here again today. How blessed we are to live where we live and with whom we live right now. So I'm over time again. But we're going to sing a couple of songs.
Sing of the wondrous works of the Lord. Sing of the wondrous works of the Lord. I remember that first bright light of promise brought out to the darkness where you found me. I remember the way that word that found me refined me through the fires of passing trials. Though heaven and earth pass away, these moments spent with you endure forever. Though memory may fail to remind me, you'll remember these moments with me. Sing of the wondrous works of the Lord. Sing of the wondrous works of the Lord. I remember you bought me out of bondage, drowning all the fears that followed hard behind me. I remember you walked me through the barren sands and called me into promised lands with you. Though heaven and earth pass away, these moments spent with you endure forever.